And I give the call to the member for Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's very pleasing to hear the member for Parramatta talk about drivers of jobs and growth. It was only a couple of hours ago we heard some wonderful news from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Jobs growth in this nation in the last month, 54,200, substantially above what was predicted. All the economic experts predicted a 20,000 increase. We have had 54,200 new jobs created in this economy in the last month. What a vote of confidence by the business community in this coalition government. This is something we should be proud of. And we've seen those ABS statistics sometimes vary a little bit, sometimes it'll be a little bit inconsistent, but we've had, for the last several months, continuing very, very strong job growth in this country. And although the headline unemployment rate number has stayed consistent, that is only because we've had a significant increase in the participation rate, up from 65.1% to 65.3%. This is good news. We've heard this morning the dollar has also surged on this news. The coalition is getting on with the work. We are getting on with driving growth in this economy and getting job growth happening. And what we must always remember, that job growth, that 54,200 new jobs created in this economy over the last month were not created by governments or bureaucrats. They were created by private individuals putting their capital on the line and taking a risk, taking a business risk, to take the risk to put on a new employee. And that is exactly what this bill is about. This bill is about lowering the rate of corporate tax in this nation to incentivise people to continue to take that risk. Because although we can be very satisfied with that rate of job growth in the last month, there is still a lot more work to do. We must make sure our nation is internationally competitive. So those in the business community that we ask them to go out there and put on new employees, we've got to give them an internationally competitive environment to play on. We can't do that if we are burdening them with a higher rate of corporate tax than what we see in other countries. Now, Peter Costello understood this. The former Treasurer, the Minister, the Shadow Minister now, the Shadow Treasurer, the Minister for McMahon, he used to understood this. He actually wrote an entire book on the subject of the importance of lowering your corporate tax rate to incentivise business investment and get jobs growth happening. But sadly, today's Labor Party no longer believe in that. They no longer understand the importance of business having an international competitive playing field to compete on. So they are quite happy to see the corporate tax rate in this country well above OECD averages. They are prepared to see personal rates of tax in this country well above averages. How can we incentivise young Australians to stay in this country if Labor's policy of almost a 50% rate? They want to have a top marginal tax rate of 49.5%. That is the rate that they want, against somewhere in Singapore or Hong Kong, 15 or 17. That becomes a disincentive. And the so-called tax increase I hear the member at the table bellowing about. That is to finance the National Disability Insurance Scheme. We owe it to those with disabled people. We have to owe it to them. We can all talk up a big game here, how we all support the National Disability Insurance Scheme, but we have to fund it. It would have been wonderful if we could have funded it from a budget surplus. It would have been wonderful if we could have funded it from additional growth. But the reality is the only way that we can fund that National Disability Insurance Scheme is to ask everyone to contribute a little bit more through their Medicare levy. And we have Labor members coming in here representing that as a tax increase. Now, the member for Parramatta also went on about renewable energy and how important that is, and the uncertainty that's faced and how there's no investment in renewable energy. Well, that's simply untrue. Currently, there's something like $7 billion being invested, $7 billion being invested in renewable energy in this country today. But the problem is, it's being invested in importing containers of solar panels from China and importing foreign-made wind turbines. It is not the investment that we need. The investment in renewables should go into research and development, not into rollout of the current technology. Because we have seen from the Australian Energy Market Operators report that when we most need our electricity, in that time of peak demand, we can only rely on renewables for 2% of their capacity. So the $7 billion of investment is doing nothing to fix the shortfall of generation capacity in this nation. It's doing nothing to encourage research and development in what we need. What we really need to do, Madam Deputy Speaker, is make sure that the investment is in the best areas of the economy. And the worst people to pick that, the worst people to decide how that should be, is government. We need, Madam Deputy Speaker, to release the private sector to put their investment capital on the line where they think it will do best. They will not always get it right. The majority of Australian businesses, after several years, we know, will no longer be trading. But as those few businesses that continue to grow and expand are the ones that will drive our economy forward in the future. Now, the other thing that we also need to have international competitiveness on is not only our taxation system, but it's the cost of energy. And we've seen the policies of the Labor Party, a 50% renewable energy target that will do nothing than drive up the cost of electricity even more than what has been in this nation. We have seen the example from South Australia, the state now that has the proud title of the world's highest electricity costs. They have pursued a policy of a 50% renewable energy target, and what has it delivered? The world's highest electricity costs. How are we going to get the business investment and the job creation if we go down the track of putting in policies that the Labor Party want that will deliver such high, internationally uncompetitive
The debate is interrupted
prices?
in accordance with Standing Order 43. The debate may be resumed at a later hour, and the member for Hughes will be given an opportunity at that time to conclude his contribution.